Mark, you want to lead us on invocation, please?
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for today, and we thank you for another time we can gather, and we thank you for our employees and staff that work hard for our community. We thank you for those that serve in our elected positions and the dedication and the sacrifice they give to of their time, and we thank you for them and their efforts, and we pray that you'll continue to bless us all and guide us as we make decisions and develop budgets and a vision for Los Fresnos. We ask this in Jesus' name, amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't think we have any visitors' remarks today. So go ahead and move on to the presentation, recognition of CDC intern Jennifer, let me see if I get this right, Lasnovsky, for service to the city of Los Fresnos. I hope I got that right. Welcome.
This one? There we go. City of Los Fresnos and the Los Fresnos Community Development Corporation have been blessed to have it participate with our youth in the community. One way that we participate is by having interns, Bianca and now Jennifer, this summer. Jennifer came to us this summer, graduated from Los Fresnos High School, and was referred to us through our organizations in town, and we needed some help. And in appreciation of that, we would like to thank Jennifer. It's been a great experience working with her and our team and all our staff in the community. And so this certificate is awarded to Jennifer Lasnovsky for her hard work and dedication as an intern for the Los Fresnos Community Development Corporation and the city of Los Fresnos. And thanks. You want to say a few words? She's going off to college, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Milam and Mr. Dudzi and everyone a part of the Los Fresnos community who gave me this amazing opportunity. I know my golf coach, Mr. Luis Gonzalez, was the one who mentioned this program to me and a couple of my friends. They're like, do you want a summer job? And I was like, yes, please. So I was able to learn a lot, and I can't wait to take everything that I've learned so far to college and into the real world. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jennifer, and if the rest of our youth is anything like you, our future looks very bright. So thank you for your help this summer. It was very good. Thank you.
We appreciate your time and community involvement, so thank you again as well. Awesome. Well, that was a great moment there. So moving on to the budget. We got the budget workshop. And Mark, I'm not sure if you want to say any words before somebody comes up.
Yes, we're going to go a little bit out of turn since we moved the day. I'm going to let Dale go first so that he can go into his other commitment. And so he'll come up first, and you can come on up, and then that is, can't even remember what page it is.
Page 4, 10, and 12.
4, 10, and 12. So turn to 4, I guess, to start off, and then we'll jump back to in order in a minute after he does.
So we continue to try and expand and even maintain what we already have. This year's budget has a lot of upgrades, switch replacements, firewall upgrades, basic network upgrades for specifically the PD. We do have a server upgrade at the library, and roughly 1/5 of our computers are being replaced because we're on a 5-year replacement program. So you can see there's not a lot of change because we don't have a lot of infrastructure improvements. It's mostly just upgrades and maintenance.
I'll mention, just because Luis is new, the first half, really over half, all the way down to other insurance, has to do with salaries, and we handled that last meeting. So it really starts at contract service, telephone, hardware, software, and network. So as you can see, it's pretty much the same as before.
Mark, what is contract IT services? What does that mean?
So contract IT services is any of our major network changes. The switches are all managed switches. We have a contract with VEAE, and they come in, they handle that. They handle all our camera infrastructure and our VoIP infrastructure as well. So,
And what it is a base rate by quarter, and then we don't have to pay any invoices through the year. It covers everything.
just by entering this contract, he's basically, the going rate for IT services right now of that caliber is about $120 an hour. This is based on $50 an hour, just to give you a difference. So it just behooves us to keep him contracted to manage that. And this is our 4th year doing that, just FYI.
And what do they do? Like if a camera breaks down, they come in and service it? How about like late calls? Or they do that? Or is that just for specific areas?
It depends on the scope. Yes, if it's a major, like if it stops us from being able to do public services, just to give you an idea, we had a virus come through 3 years ago, and his staff and I were here for 4 straight days cleaning computers, and that was well into every night, getting everybody back online. And none of that was at any extra charge to us. It was all part of our contract.
And then as you look at those numbers on the other pages that he referred to, it's water and sewer. The way we do IT is we split it, 50% goes to the general fund, 25% water fund, and 25% sewer fund. So it'll match exactly those to the other pages you mentioned, which are
10 and 12.
10 and 12. So on 10 and 12, you'll see exactly the repeat of what you see on page 4, except half, because it makes the other half.
And on the first line under information technology, it says information technician salary. I see 18,000, pretty steady, and then I see 40. What's the difference there attributed to?
If you'll recall, that's what we went over last week, and it was adding a position, full-time position on staff here that y'all approved.
Okay. One thing I didn't get to ask, because I guess I was tired that whole day, but I know that some of the newer members don't really know how long Dale's been here. I'd like to know a little bit about how long he's been here, what kind of experience he has, because as we're looking for this new role, I want to see what kind of, educational background or experience he has, so we know how the assistant will be hired based on, what are we looking at as a base. And then the other thing is, I'm not sure if we really know, tell me a little bit about Dale, about your hours on a day-to-day basis. What time are you normally here? What time do you normally leave? How many hours would you say you put in a week or a month?
So it varies drastically. In May, for instance, I was here quite a few hours because we had issues that were going on. My agreement with the city is that I would be available when needed, up to 20 hours a week is my agreement. So that's what we're kind of based the salary on, was a 20-hour work week, to manage the system, plan, project management, and so on. I've been here 12 years, is how long I've been on staff here. So, it just varies. I'm here as much as I have to be, and sometimes more.
And then on call 24 hours a day, basically.
Yeah, I've had police knock on my door at
And
11 o'clock at night.
do you take all those police calls whenever they have system shutdowns, or are we doing anything outside of maybe? you
No, they
having
come
to
to
help?
me. So all the services we just talked about goes through me. So I'm first line of defense. I'm first line of response.
Okay, so you answer all the calls that the
Right.
police department does, and you take care of all their issues, right?
Or I get it handled by the
The
contract
IT
services,
the
depending on
the
what
one
it
that
is.
was contract IT services. right?
Correct. And then now we'll have, and this is what we talked about last week, the person on staff will handle password resets and exchange or email issues and such that ends up occupying, now that we have as many users as we do, ends up occupying a lot of my time.
Okay, and
My
you,
printer doesn't
Yeah, my printer's not printing.
work.
so with 20 hours, are you considered a full-time or a part-time employee?
So I'm a salaried employee because of the way the arrangement worked out.
With benefits?
With benefits?
With benefits, yes.
It's part of the law with IT services. It allows for that, and so that's where that comes in.
So in the new position, are you going to be looking for education, or I didn't hear you say if you had a degree in information
I do
technology?
not have a degree.
Okay.
I have some certifications. When I was brought on as more of a project manager. At that time, we had 2 servers and we were in 1 building. Since then, we've expanded to, I think I have 14 servers. I have 5 networks that we manage. I have 2 firewalls, 2 Exchange servers, 2 domain controllers. And PD has 3 servers that operates their stuff. We have 3 servers that operate ours. Like it's become a robust system that is far bigger than what I hired to manage.
Is that one of the big projects that you defined at the last meeting that you said, or what are your big projects, or are you working on anything right now?
No, our infrastructure is pretty well where it needs to be for now. This year is, and this is kind of how you have to manage IT, is this year we're doing, a lot of the switches we installed are 6, 7 years old now. We're replacing those. A lot of the network hardware is getting replaced this year. So we're kind of doing maintenance this year in order to, not have a budget shock. If I did maintenance the same year I did projects, it would be, a hefty budget, so.
Can you please define what a big project is? Because I'm not sure what that means.
Well, just to give you an idea, 2 years ago, well, one of the big projects was when we installed this building, but 2 years ago, we replaced 2 servers at PD, we replaced 2 servers here, and then we had to build the entire network infrastructure between the 2. Somebody has to design that and plan that and then make it happen. That's kind of the role I play.
I don't have the paperwork from last week. What is your salary?
It is the minimum exempt salary allowed by law. And I believe it's 38,000 a year. I think that's right, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And also notice on the last meeting, when Gabby asked if you would help with the marketing, you said it wasn't in your job title. I think I've noticed that a lot of people that work here do work for each other. They help each other out, so they do things outside of their normal job title. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was wondering, are you working directly with any other department to help them as they're helping you, or is there any camaraderie like that going on with you?
Yeah, I work with all the departments.
Okay, but the marketing stuff is something that you won't help with,
I'm not a market, and it's not that I'm not willing. I even said, I'm willing to do whatever is needed. What I said is, it's not really the scope of work or the training that I have.
And it's not the work or scope of Jackie or anybody else
I
to
mentioned
handle
that
as
in the
well, yeah.
meeting, actually. That's not, Jackie's also not a marketing director. That's a whole different scope. I've fought with Facebook for months, and I run our YouTube channel, and I do a lot of things that aren't necessarily under my scope.
And we appreciate that. Just want to make sure I understand exactly, because this is it's a big amount of money that we're approving here. And just
Yeah.
wanted to see if any of the other council had any questions.
That's, between those positions, that's $78,000 roughly, off and on, a few hundred. Would a full-time employee, we would offer you a full-time job, would you be available for that?
So that was one of the things I talked about in our budget meeting, is making my position full-time. However, it wouldn't be me.
See, and I think that's what would probably be better, having one full-time position and the other technical service, the contract IT services in order to accomplish that. I'm just a little concerned because we're paying you a salary, we're looking for another guy, and then we got this contract service.
My thing is,
that's
we have
helping.
two part-time people.
Yeah, so we have two part-time, so where can we, is that something that we
So
need
can
to
I,
do?
can I clarify something there?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Because I think it's important to recognize that the position that we're hiring for is to handle help desk type things. And what you just mentioned, 78,000 is the salary. To get somebody to build infrastructure and manage networks, that's about the average salary for the position that I'm in. And so it's really a wash, and what you get is a guy who's dedicated to the end user experience, which is kind of what you were talking about. You hire an IT director, he's not going to be an end user person.
And that's kind of hard because I don't know much about IT. I got a friend named Andy who works for Cameron County as the IT guy, but other than that, I really don't know much about how much they get paid or how many people it takes to, and that's where I'm a little confused right there, because I'm not sure exactly if this is comparable or to what, because I don't see any other, like, whenever Mark gives a recommendation, we'll see a different city and we'll see how many, that position and what the average salary is, and in this case, we don't have that information in front of us, so.
But we're not hiring a director, we were
No, we're hiring a full-time employee.
just an IT employee. If you'll recall, I relayed what we want to do here, no different than if we had the chief of police that was out patrolling and doing citations. We need the chief of police to look at the overall direction of the police department and where that's going. Doesn't mean that he can't go give a citation, because chief is very willing and can do that and has done that. But if he's doing that on a daily basis, he's not looking out for the police department in the direction it needs to go. Our IT has gotten to that point where we have a person that, as a director, can look and continue our vision and continue our growth in our IT department that is well surpassed any city our size, and many cities way bigger than us in what we have, allowing him now to continue to focus on the overall direction of our IT and where it goes, and getting someone to do those things as password resets, looking at a printer, those kind of what I call menial duties that needs to be done by someone that is getting paid far less, and being here full-time for us available is what we need. And so the overall direction is very equivalent to what we have in our other departments. It's just that we're growing, and at some point in the future, we're not there yet, at some point in the future, we will not only have a part-time, and a full-time employee doing those things, we'll have a full-time director. We're not ready for that, and we don't want to pay for that today.
That's my question right there. I know right now we're kind of in between, so we're trying to figure out ways to keep things sustainable. How long, and I know it's not inaccurate, I don't expect this to be accurate to hold on to, but how many years do you think we can sustain this like this?
I can't answer that. Quite a few years yet. I mean, we're a ways away from that.
See, Mark, and I agree with you. I think we're growing. Eventually, it's going to get a little too out of hand, and we're going to need these extra roles. But I find it more critical to have somebody backing you up as an assistant to you than I do an assistant to Dale. So my concern is I would love a position like this where they can go under your wing when you're not around on vacation or whatever to handle all those minuscule things, because I know you do get frustrated, and Jackie picks up a lot of the slack when we need questions. But I would think that this would be better suited for somebody to back you up at this time. Maybe next year it could be Dale's assistant.
We're working with IT, not
Yeah.
an assistant
Just an
for
idea. I
Mark.
mean, I'm just talking
Well, I
about
know,
the
but
money
it's,
that's going out.
Everything's got its place and time, and right now, we're working with the IT department and its budget. And in working with Los Fresnos CISD and in different areas, different departments. Also, my work experience in El Paso, working with a school district as big as Brownsville, and then working several departments there. The IT department that we have here is doing its job, okay?
Oh, it is.
And as far as needing a person on call during the daytime to take care of the menial things, and nothing's as frustrating as sitting there in front of your computer knowing you have a deadline to meet and it's not working properly. The software's not working properly. And to me, the direction that we're going in at this point in time is the direction that we need to be. As to when do we need to change, I think that's gonna come up, and it'll hit you in the face and say, okay, we need to change to something else because this is not working anymore. But I think what we have now, and in the addition that we're gonna put with that online guy working, when everybody's at a computer and able to answer those questions, and then that's gonna be godsend. So, in my opinion, we're heading in the right direction with the right personnel at this time.
But you said online. This is not going to be an online position. It's going to be a position here.
Well, I know, but he's online to where I can call him, the guy from the water department can call him, one of the personnel at the library that's having problems can call him, and online he can fix what's happening.
Or he can go over there right then. And then that's what we talked about last time, and I got your message about something as an assistant for me, and I said, can we look at that next year? And y'all said, fine, and we'll look at that, and I've got some things. To be honest with you, this will take a lot off of my load, because I hear that, hey, I was down with a printer and I had to wait. Well, guess what? I won't have all those calls because I have someone here that can deal with that on a regular basis. And so you might not think that this won't help me, but it'll help me greatly. And that's why it's part of the budget and part of the plan. Does that make sense?
Yes. And on the contract IT services for that money that's being charged, how many calls are we sending that way? And what department is using the contract IT services more?
So again, that all goes through me, and a lot of that is project-based. It's, big maintenance projects, replacing cabling, replacing switches, configuring switches. It's things that are advanced services, and it's also, up to this point, it's also been kind of that person that's kind of helped take care of some of those quote-unquote menial tasks. It's not menial to the person who needs it at the time, but, and what we're, one of the things when we're looking at budget is we could pull that back and go with a full-time employee. The problem is when we need extra knowledge, brain power, it's $120 an hour. If we get hit with a virus, it's $120 an hour. And for 4 days, we eat up money quick. And so we saw that as a way to continue to be able to hit some of these major projects. And the guy we're hiring isn't going to be a network infrastructure person. This guy is going to be an end user person. He's going to be a person handling the PCs in front of people and the printers and all of the end user equipment.
So Do they need any experience with that said, or can you just hire?
No,
them
no.
as a student?
Yeah, I want somebody, I want somebody who's got experience. I want somebody who is, basically the way IT works is you have help desk 1, help desk 2, service tech, network tech, and we keep going up the list. And somebody has to see the whole picture. That's my job. His job will be a help desk / service tech 2, basically. So it's a mid-level, IT position.
I know at the school we hired new technicians. Matter of fact, they got one for every campus now. And by one, I mean the elementaries never had one. They used to share
Right.
One IT person by 3 or 4, depending on distances. So now all of them have one. The school has now, the high school has 2, United has 2. So I understand this is very big in terms of all of the, like we use Barracuda, and that's what you guys
As
use
do
and
we.
stuff. Yeah. So I understand the need. I guess the concern is that we have 2 part-time at 20 hours a week. How can we ensure that one will always be on call and you all aren't off at the same time? Kind of, I mean,
It's a full-time employee that y'all approved last week. It's a full-time technician at $20 an hour, up to $20 an hour. So it's a full-time that will be here to help us during the day. So,
And just, you asked earlier about support, and, this person is an hourly person, I'm the salaried person. At 11 o'clock at night, when dispatch can't get their system to work, I'm the one they'll call, I'm the one that will respond, I'm the one that will handle it, I'm still the one that handles it. And that is gonna continue to be the case,
I honestly, sir, no, I prefer to recompense you more, right?
Tell me
By
whatever.
paying you more, and I know you've worked here for a long time, but I know it might be difficult as well. I mean, that would be my first option if I did have one. But this is what we have here, but does anybody else have any more questions?
Commissioner Munoz, you want to say anything, Mr. Munoz?
He's been doing this for a long time, and he's doing it on his own, so I can see that where he's coming from, and he needs somebody to be here. And like I said, and look, like you guys also say, Mark, can be lift over from some duties, because sometimes it's not easy just to change the printer. It's just the printer itself. Not everybody knows that. So I do agree that you need help, and I'm all for it.
Any more questions?
Any more questions or a motion? Or do we make a motion on this or no?
no, this is gonna be one big workshop, and we'll change things as we need to change and move on. So, ready to go to the next?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Don.
Okay. Let's jump back to page 1 then, and we'll start with revenues. If you see on the first half of your page, it just shows revenues and expenditures, and they're combined in categories. So we're looking at it detailed, so we won't look at the top half. The bottom half starts the revenue, and the first one is the current property taxes. And with the rate of 71.5, and our valuations will estimated to bring in $1,455,457. It's higher than last year at $1,002,000. There's some other line items there, but they don't change very much. The next one is city sales tax. If you'll see, the first column there is actual from last year. It's $1,555,000 and some change. We were conservative and budgeted $1,005,000. We're going to hit in excess of $1,600,000. So we're projecting to be at $1,650,000, which is about a 3% increase. Our lowest over the last few years has been about 6%. So we feel real confident in that number going forward. The next one that could be a question for you is the garbage collection residential, because This year, we're gonna hit about 62, and we're only gonna project 30, and the reason why is, if you'll remember, prior to, in our budget time last year, costs were continuing to rise, and we were only projecting 25,000 in our garbage carts. Well, after budget time, they came with a renewal for another 5 years, I believe, and brought you with a proposal that they would keep some of the rates the same and go down on some of the rates. And so they did that, and so that's why we ended up having 62,000 this year. Part of their agreement is they can go up the cost of living or the consumer price index, but we capped it at 4%. So there will be an increase over the next month for carts, but we won't need to change the rates to any people, to our residents. What will happen is we'll just pay more for it and they'll pay the same. And so that number will drop to about 30,000. So I wanted to explain that. The rest of it will stay the same. We always, if they go up on commercial, because it's such a large amount, we go up a comparable amount on the commercial. If they go up 2%, we go up 2%. And that'll be brought to you later when, usually it's in September when they do that, or October. Municipal court fines and fees, we talked a lot about that over the last few years. We usually run about 500,000 or so. You can see last year we were 731, 238. We budgeted 490. We're going to hit about 690 or more. So we're projecting 500,000, but if you'll take your pen and cross that out and put 545,000. The reason why we're doing that is after we gave you this budget, we got the data in from our financial advisors. If you'll recall, we're doing the drainage project, which about 50% of it is grant funds, or they call it loan forgiveness. In other words, free money. The other one is 0%. So our payment a year will be $45,000 a year. So if we move that up to 545, that'll cover that payment that was not included in your budget because we didn't have the information. The rest of them down, if you go down the rest of that page, are pretty much equal all the way around. The next page, it starts with grant reimbursements different ones we have. The very first one is we get about $60,000 a year for our community health program, and so that's budgeted there. The service contract with the school district is going up a little bit, mainly because of radios. They have radios on our system, and it costs so much per radio. So as that number increases, well, then they pay us for it. So it's just a reimburse. And so this is the revenue that covers that. As you go down that next area, it's all about the same. They're just franchise fees from AEP, AT&T, Texas Gas Service, the tower. So none of that really changes a lot. I'll skip down into that next section. The third one from the top is shooting range. We've been running about a revenue of about $10,000 a year. And what that is school uses our shooting range as well as a couple of others. Well, recently, Homeland Security and Border Security didn't have a place, so they're using our range. And so that revenue has jumped to about $25,000. So that shows the difference there.
Mark, can I ask on the
Yes.
on the range? Maybe PD would know on this. We're getting some money on the rental of that. Are we limiting ourselves? Would that be a revenue that we could increase? Would the cost benefit be better or not if we would update or upgrade that so that we can offer it more to Border Patrol and Customs and other officers?
Yeah, we are, and it'll be on the expenditure side when they get to it, and we're actually going from 10,000 expense into it to 25, so that we can put into it and upgrade it. They gotta do some berm work and stuff, but they'll deal with that. Good comment. They'll deal with that in a little bit. License and permits, I wanted to mention, it's about halfway down, that next group. Last year, we got permit fees, and this is for, building construction, was 171. We're gonna hit about 210 this year. Just a lot of construction, and so because of that, when we get to the expenditure side, we'll talk about that in a little bit. The permit, the inspection cost has gone up accordingly. We've got well more to cover it. That's what the fees are for, is to cover that. We're only budgeting 175 this coming year because we already see a little bit of slowdown in some construction. I was talking to Mr. Ramos, and some of the things that he's doing now is instead of all the new ones, including the ones that are being built, he's just doing ones that are being built and just a few new ones. I don't know if that'll stick. I think it has to do with economy, it has to do with interest rates, has to do with a lot of things. So we'll see how that pans out long haul.
Just one question here, Mark, because I'm seeing a trend. We're proposing less, projecting more, right? And that's always a good thing, because that, if anything, it'll give us a surplus at the end of the year for the stuff we don't use. So I guess if anything, thank you on that, because that makes things a little bit easier and clearer.
Yes. I try to budget revenues conservatively. If we use just what max we think we'll get, if we don't reach that, well, then I'm here in May, June, July and saying, oh, I messed up really bad, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather the other way come and say, hey, we have a little bit of excess. We've got projects. What project would you like to put it into? And that's what y'all done in past years. So if you see at the bottom of that is our total revenue, on the right side is $4,876,907. Our expenditures will also be that amount. As a city municipality, we do a zero-based budget. We're not for profit, so as you know, we always have some excess, or at least my time, we've always had excess. So it's not that we always spend it. Sometimes we have more, and so, but that's the way it's based off of. Any questions on revenue?
What's a plat review fees?
Okay. That's when developments happen. Like one, we had a meeting today with Valle Alto Phase 6 or 7. Jackie, do you remember? 6? It's a different next phase, and there's going to be like 50, 55 homes. And so they pay, our engineer, Hanson Professional Services, has to review all those documents to be sure they're order, be sure the water's right, the sewer's right, the drainage right, the streets are right. All of that's billed to grade and everything. And so they review it. Well, the plat review fees are set. And so those fees cover their expense to do that. And so as you can see,
What company is this?
Hanson Professional Services, Paulina Vega, you've seen her, and then Rick Riggins works with them as well. They're the city engineers that do that. You notice that we budgeted $7,500 both this year and last year. We had $18,000. We don't budget for a lot because we never know when those developments are going to happen, and so you'll see an increase in the revenues. You'll also see an increase in the payment to them, and so it's kind of a wash, even though the fees are a little higher than what the cost is, if that makes sense. Because staff also reviews that quite a bit, spend a lot of time in that. That answer your question?
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, if we'll go to the next page, and page 3, and it will start expenditures in each department, and some of them I'll do, and some of them the different department heads will handle. Administration, just like in each one, the first 6 or 8 down to other insurance we won't discuss because that was all done last week, and part of those discussions as part of the pay raises. I'll skip down to about the middle where it says Valley Metro Service. It's 502-03-120. That's the code number we have on the left-hand side. And if you look down there, it's been $19,995 for several years. In fact, since 2013-14, they are going up to $21,995.
And that's the bus service?
That's the bus service, and we're part of a consortium of 6 or 8 entities. TSC's part of it, or now UTB. Well, TSC is still part of it. UTB, Texas Workforce Commission, Los Fresnos School District, City of Los Fresnos, and then of course, Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council, which is who Valley Metro is worked under. So all of them pitch in to make that bus service connection to Brownsville and San Benito, Harlingen.
And I could be wrong, but they also provide free service for students?
It's all free.
It's all free.
The whole service is free. They used to charge $1 and $2. They, about 5 years ago, went away, or 4 years ago, went away from charging through other grants that they get from the Texas Department of Transportation and also the federal government. So it's all free service. So I wanted to mention that change. The other change on down quite a bit from there, maintenance of equipment and building, that's going to go up some. We had some maintenance this year on our generator. When we built the building, if you'll recall, we didn't include the generator as part of it, and so this was getting that generator up to snuff so that when power is out, it'll come on. It also includes, we're part of a maintenance agreement with our air conditioner contractor that put the air conditioners in this building to do regular maintenance. That way it continues part of the warranty, and we just don't have to worry about air filters and those kinds of things, leaks in the system, because they do regular checks. Maintenance building just going up a little bit just so that we can be sure that we properly take care of this building through time. The next one, a little bit about the fourth from the bottom there on that section, is technology maintenance agreements. I mentioned to you a couple that I had missed last year, so we're showing that to be sure that we're covered in those technology maintenance agreements. Those include all of our software from Encode, which is our accounting package that does all of our accounting, our permitting, both water, wastewater, city. Our whole finance package is through Encode. It also includes our new policy manual that y'all approved and we have in operation. It includes GIS maps and upgrades. If you'll go on our website, Jackie works with them on, they also did a module with garbage, and you can click on there and tells you when your garbage service is. So all those types of agreements are in there. So as you can see, the total for administration is $628,056, and the big part of that is the salaries in the top. The rest of it is about standard from one year to the next. Any questions before we move on to the next? The next one is municipal court. Jackie oversees that, and you can see that's pretty pretty steady there as far as the totals. Go ahead.
So you'll see everything's pretty steady. The only slight increase you'll see is in supplies and credit card service charge. We are sending a lot more letters and notifications to violators to let them know they have to pay and give them options on what they can do to take care of the violation. And the credit card service charge, there's a lot more people paying with credit cards since COVID. A lot more people rather just do it online. So that's why you'll see those two increases.
Is it more convenient? I know, where you get more people walking in, because I know we're a local, small community, so most everybody lives within a few miles. Do you get more people coming in or online? I mean, we need to have both, but what do you?
I think more in person, because they want to come and they want options, like I want a payment plan, or I don't want it to go on my record, as opposed to just running and paying it online. Usually it's people that are out of town that get cited, like from upper.
Now, I know we're not here to discuss this, but any more help on that end, would you suggest maybe in the near future?
No, I think our girls do a really good job of keeping track of the violators, who doesn't pay. They have a procedure they follow to make sure whoever doesn't pay, they send out letters. And they don't just send out one, they send out 1, 2, 3 letters, warnings before they do warrants.
Sorry, ma'am, I think I threw you off track.
No, that's okay.
Anything else on court? As you can see, we're 267 this year, and it's 276, so it's, the only difference really is the pay increases that you approved for the 4%. The next page is page 4, and generally Pablo will do it, but really there's no change. It's a tax assessor collector with the tax appraisal fee that's set by them. They tell us what we pay, and it's based off of population. In case you didn't know, we pay because we have a population of 8,114 people. Brownsville pays because they have 180 something thousand. So that's how it's based off of. And the second one is the county contract, maintenance and operations fee for them collecting our property taxes, and pretty reasonable, and it's real steady, so no change really there. The next section Dale went over, and then the next section is Jackie for elections.
Elections pretty much stays the same. It's usually steady every year. We base it off the election contract from the county.
And those contracts are pretty steady. We do get a little relief when it's a presidential election and city election and school election, and the more elections it is, they spread that cost out over, so we like it when there's more than one election, so, but that's a pretty good estimate.
Whenever we have a special election, it goes into there, right? If we
Yes,
had,
sir.
like, for example, Polo. Yeah. that
Right,
would have done.
but because we're holding it at the same time, our regular election, it doesn't cost them to, the only extra cost we'll have is printing, because I'm pretty sure it'll have to be on a separate ballot, because they have the general one for the 2 places that are up, and then the second one for the special. But they won't have to have an additional election judge or election workers for that one position. So if it had been in March or June or May is the other election date, it would have been another 16,000, which was why we had kind of pushed for, hey, we need to know something by about that date.
Got it, thank you.
Next is police department, and let them come up, and again, the first part is we talked about in the meeting 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago. So he'll start about halfway down where it talks about breathalyzer and forensics, and he won't specifically mention there, but that's where he'll start. There's not much change in their budget.
Basically, whole line item stayed the same. If you would look at fuel for vehicles, proposing, 90,000 for the year, with the price fluctuating up and down and having the biggest fleet, there had to be an increase.
Sir, with the sorry, I'm going off the top, coming down. The breathalyzers, how often do we have to rotate those off of service?
That's it.
If I may, Chief, we don't rotate them as we lose officers, they leave to other agencies. We continue with the same amount that is budgeted for operators. We're allowed up to 3 free operators. The rest is costing the city $550 per each operator itself. So we do fill those operators throughout the year as we lose them.
Any other questions on this page? On page 5,
Prisoners' expenses, that's typically their breakfast and lunches or
yes,
stuff like that.
basically for the inmates that we house.
On the same page, it says, police overtime, Stowe Garden. Is that expenditure or just, it's placed on there because,
That's a grant, and that y'all approve every year, and so if you look on there, Stone Garden's 30,000, and then we look over on the other page where revenue, you'll see on page 1, you'll see the grant revenue next to the last bottom 30,000, so it's a wash. They give us 30 and we do overtime to do that program for 30. So if they didn't do it, it would be 0. If we didn't have the grant, that one would be
The one
0.
we talked about last time. And
Correct.
yes.
And then that MOU we signed with customer book.
Any other questions on page 4? On page 5, line item 507, 11120, maintenance of shooting range. As you can see, we had post 25,000. Actually, we used 10,000 that was budgeted. We've got a contract with the U.S. Customs Service and some other agencies that pay us for the usage of the range. And we're trying to get some upgrade on the range itself.
Just to give you a little bit of update, we're currently working with the berm for the rifle range. We've pumped some good significant amount of money. Of course, the 25,000 that's budgeted for this coming year, we want to have more improvements to the range. There's areas of the range that has concrete, and we eventually want to get a concrete all the way through. It makes it easier to pick up the brass and stuff like that, and of course continue to maintain the berm itself. Just to stop the bullets from traveling any further down the road.
So basically, that's the highlight items for our department. Any questions?
Maintenance costs on the buildings, I think it was on that, no, right there, halfway through on page 5. I know you guys still work off of our old building there, City Hall. Is there anything abnormal, like any water leaks or anything like that? I know.
No, we're very fortunate the last couple of years that we did some remodeling to the building itself, so we've been good up to par and stuff. AC units have been replaced, so we've had no issues. If anything, it's minor issues, things that are fixable, doors and knobs and stuff like that, nothing major.
I know last time we were invited to go see the water department. I've never seen the inside of the jail, and I guess I'd like to at this point now. Because I know you guys, I don't know how you all expanded to the other side or how the other side's being used now, and I just kind of wanted to see, go to the range.
Stop by and take a visit. You know, it's grown tremendously for us, more space and stuff like that for the command staff and patrol itself.
Yeah, if anything, I just kind of want to see like the before and after, what y'all had to deal with before and now what y'all have. And definitely, I know I drove with Mark out that way towards where the firing range was at, and that was the first time I had ever seen it. I've heard it, but that was the first time I had ever seen it.
You're welcome to stop by anytime.
I also noticed that there was somebody that one time they fell, right? Had some kind of attorney or something. He put a lawsuit. Are we? There's no risk there of any other slip and falls that we have to designate a safe area or something like that. I think that was what, last year, Mark, when that gentleman
Yes.
had that accident. Oh, that was no, it was at the PD. It was at the PD.
In the jail section.
At the jail section, an attorney or somebody fell and they hurt themselves and they did a lawsuit, so. Yeah, they did a step down, but all of that stuff, there's no liability anywhere
Yeah.
near that. You guys
We
have done an
posted a
assessment.
sign there that watch your step,
Perfect.
so.
I don't got any other questions. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
One more
Oh,
thing, sorry,
go ahead,
sorry, I came in late. When you all do your trainings, do you all go on your own patrol vehicles, or do you all go on your own vehicles? Just because I know we don't, I'm not sure, maybe we do, Mark. Do we have a city vehicle, in itself?
Usually we send officers out to train, they'll take one of our units and stuff that's unmarked, depending on the situation, you know. If it's close by, they'll take a marked unit. We have extra units out there available for them.
If
If
it's
it's an out-of-town trip, they'll take one of our
with one of the unmarked units, that way, hopefully they're not damaged wherever.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because I know some of these trainings may be far from here, so I just want to know if you guys get compensated mileage, that way we can.
they will use city vehicles.
And one last question. I know that we had the IT guy here at first, but what is your procedure when something breaks down? What is a normal procedure that you guys
We
follow?
contact, there's a work order, we contact Mr. Bill House, and if it's something critical, we contact immediately. If something that can wait, you know, we'll put a work order and then they'll, you know, work it down the chain and get it fixed.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
The next section is fire, and as you know, we have a contract with the Los Fresnos Volunteer Fire Department. They do great service and as part of our community. They are funded through the Special Services Contract, which is the third line there. Talked to the fire chief, and he recommended that we keep the amount the same this year. We have gone up every year for quite a few years. Whenever I got here, the city was funding the fire department only $9,000 a year. That didn't even cover their fuel bill. One of those new trucks cost $600,000-$700,000 now. So as you can see, we get by very inexpensively, and the reason why we can do that is, one, they're volunteer. Number two, they have a county emergency service district contract that is quite lucrative, and so we're fortunate. One day, I don't know when in the future it won't be volunteer, but it'll probably start becoming paid. I hope not anytime soon. They do a wonderful job, and their training is, just so you know, it's not like secondary training. It's the same training that a paid firefighter does, that a volunteer does. So they've got a lot of those guys that are certified, and then many that have full-time jobs at another, like Brownsville Fire Department or South Padre, that live here, and so they volunteer, and so we have that expertise, and so very fortunate with that. So the reason why he said he didn't want to change it is he wanted it part of the agreement for the city to mow their facility. They've always taken care of their facility, and so we talked to Carlos, and after he goes, no, we don't got enough time. You know, he says, no, that would be fine, that they will do it as part of the mowing here, mow here, and just continue on. It's not that much more when you're already here, and it'll save dollars, real dollars, in the budget not to go up. And so that was his recommendation, and our staff felt it was okay, so that's the only change. The rest of the items are, you know, there is insurance in there. They repay that. Whatever their building insurance and liability insurance, they reimburse the city for that. Our finance department just issues, an invoice for that, and that's repaid. So, any other questions on fire?
So you're saying that the special service contract is a contract that we have for them, or is?
Yes.
Yeah.
To provide, fire protection
Fire
for the city.
On top of the 150 we granted a few months back, I believe. Is that what we did? No, I remember Mr. Daniels came and,
Oh, that was for EMS. This is for fire. We'll get that in
Sorry.
just a minute. Yes.
questions. Actually, one more. I know if Mr. Daniels was here, I'd ask him. I know this Indian Lake expansion, and I know they had difficulties covering areas. I know they're not our constituents themselves, right? But if anything happens, they are in our city limits. Has that been resolved?
I don't think it has. I think they're gonna send a letter with the contract to them this year, and that it has to go up, but that's really not, it's a contract from the fire department to Indian Lake, not from the city, so.
Fire marshals, I know we really don't spend much on it. We're a small town also, so I'm looking, a lot of that maybe is just new buildings, inspections and stuff, or?
Yes, reviews, plans. And also, inspections. By law, you have to inspect some businesses every month, so many every month, and so, he does that, and then, there's always things come up, that,
Do we do any of that work for the school district, buildings or anything like that? I don't see them.
regular
Right.
inspections as they do, as it fits with that, he would do. Foster homes, there's inspection that is done from the fire marshal for that.
That's all I have.
The next piece is engineering, and the first one is the building inspector. Was 81,000 last year. We budgeted or projected 80. It's going to be about 110. We put it 110 because of probably the drop in permits. As you can notice that, remember our permit fees were 210, so it more than covers that expenditure. This board has looked at a full-time employee. We've advertised like 4 times. We can't get anybody that has the certifications. There's only 3 or 4 of them in the valley. We have looked at some contract services, very similar to the message that you heard from Dale on IT. They're very expensive. They would be half again as high as this. So we're doing very well, and it works very well with our contractors and the way that we work the system, and they don't have to wait any time on an inspection. Inspections happen very quickly. Most cities, contractors will tell you, oh, and Brownsville have to wait 2 weeks for an inspection, and as long as they call it by about 4:45, 4:30, it'll be that day. So plat reviews, the mayor mentioned plat reviews. What are they on the revenue side? That's what the developers pay us to review plats. This is the expense side where the engineer reviews that information, and the big one this year has been, and is still not off, and still not complete, is the one up by 803. That's a huge development. Quite a few problems with their plat. Is not, I guess, done very well, and so it takes a lot of reviews on our part, but we have in our policy that anything over, they have to pay for. So we're getting reimbursed for all of that, which is very good.
So, just, could you give me a little bit of background? So, a developer wants to come in, they'll come in with their own plat, right? And then we'll have our engineering group to overview that it's done correct, so that's what, kind of, that's
Correct.
where they're stuck right now?
Yes, sir. Very, 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 in simple terms, they have a preliminary plat, and the preliminary plat comes back and it says, I've got this much land, I want to make these lots. Jackie, myself, and Carlos review them for what we call administratively complete. There's a lot of things that we do that engineer doesn't have to do. Like we can look at, does it meet the lot size, 60 by 100 or more? Does it meet all of these criteria that is set by our ordinance? And there's some of it that's set by, because we're a border town, it's called the colonial law. And so it's a checklist that we give the developer, but we also go through it to be compliance. And so they'll get a quick review from us, and then we send them, Jackie will send them out a letter that says, you didn't do this and this right. They'll resubmit it, then it goes to engineer. He comes back, he or she comes back and says, these are the things, just they're missing. Normally, there's none to 8 or 10. For I guess comparison, that one I'm talking about, there was well over 50 after the second or third review, so it's a mess. But it's okay because they're having to pay for it, and we get reimbursed. So, but we've got a good engineering firm. Both Paulina and Rick do a really good job of taking care of the city's interest in that. So, very good. Engineering the different things at different projects through the year. We've asked them to do special as some drainage looks at that are off, away from, when I say off, is separate from the big drainage projects we're doing. We've had them do a few of those things, like the 10th Street sewer issue and drainage, some of those things. So that's where the engineering on that next line goes. And that's all for that item. You ready for environmental? And that's really code enforcement? Who's going to do that, Charlie? Once again, the top part is done with pay increases that you approved. I think down to about other ordinance enforcement is the first line.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, council members. Everything more or less stayed steady. If any increases, it's due to the prices going up on supplies that we utilize or anything like that. But if we start under in ordinance enforcement, we're keeping it the same. Basically, there where we get is any lot mowing, any enforcement that we didn't do. That's where we get that from. Just the next one, there's a price increase from 4,000 to 8,000, but again, for the prices that are going up. Part of this also comes out from the supplies that we use for animal control, and also for like the mosquitoes, the chemicals on the mosquitoes also went up for the machine that we use to spraying. So we get the money from there, and actually the actual chemical itself, it did go up a lot this season. So we're just foreseeing for next year.
I was actually gonna ask, part of that, overtime salaries, right? It's not much, but I was trying to figure out how do we do overtime on code enforcement, but the spraying itself on after hours, that in itself I can see, but it's just a question now.
Okay. The next one, again, the price increase that we have is I'm gonna skip over to the fuel for vehicles. Again, obviously, the gas prices have been going up, and we're just anticipating that they're probably gonna be staying steady as they are right now, so we're pushing it up a little. Everything else basically stayed the same, unless you all have any questions.
Advertising, I know it's 250. I know with social media, is that something we could take care of off of your hands if we have an IT person to be sending out, keep the trucks off your yards? I don't know exactly what the codes are for the town exactly, but is that something we could take care of now? I mean, it's only $250, but I don't want it, I mean, if it doesn't have to be on your end to worry about.
The advertising, that's for, things that by law, we have to put in the paper. It doesn't, our posts on Facebook don't cost anything, and so, and we do send out mosquitoes, flyers and stuff like that, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing, guys, on animal control. I don't know what officer was out there on Alvarez Court when that Sunday we were out there, we had a lightning storm. I know there was 2 dogs that got loose and, they were out there helping the family. I actually have a husky myself, so, so I just wanted, I don't know who was out there on patrol, but just thank you very much on stuff like that.
The next page is page 6, and it's EMS. And once again, it's a community-based ambulance service. They have a nonprofit board that oversees them. They reimburse us the workers' comp, the building insurance, and liability insurance. The contract with the Los Fresnos EMS is what provides the service, and if you'll notice, it was 145 last year where it says actual. Went to 310, if that was where that 150 came in. The contract amount was really 160, if you'll recall. And then Mr. Daniels came and asked for a one-time off, 150, and it was granted by the council. So it goes back to that 150 goes off for this next year. If you can see in that right-hand column, 160. And once again, he says no increase. It can stay the same. They're part of that unit, so the mowing will do that. So that saves us, and it's been about a $15,000 increase per year. So it'll save us that in the budget. Otherwise, it's everything else is the same. There's no questions in there. The next one is just a real quick one. Garbage is just for bad debt. We don't have very much. We kind of talked about that, I think, last meeting when we brought you the annual ones that, you know, when you look at several $1 million in charges, it's less than half of 1%. So the deposits that we have against that usually takes care of it. Doesn't always. Some people take advantage and skip by night, and we don't get all of it, but most of it we collect. So that's what that is.
And most of that comes with the water bill and together as they come and pay it, so you
Yes.
kind of get both of them at the same time.
The next one, Raul is here to deal with streets and parks the next 2. Carlos was scheduled to be off today, so I didn't want to make him come because we moved the meeting. So Raul is very knowledgeable on all of these, so he can present and then answer any questions, and I can help him if he needs it.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. The Streets Department, most of the items we've kept them the same with the exception, like, for example, electricity. The city has grown, so we have more street lighting. Also, another item to focus is fuel for vehicles. We know that the price of gas has gone up, so that has been one of the items that we needed to adjust. Also, street drains and repairs, a little bit further down is another item that we've needed to address with the potholes and more maintenance as our streets are being used more. Also, toward the bottom, vegetation control is another item that that needed to be adjusted as the prices of items have gone up and transportation. So that's about
Mainly Roundup on the vegetation control is almost doubled, hasn't it, from over the last year?
On the electricity streetlights, I've noticed there's been towns that have the LED lights. Is that of any savings? Would there be a difference in cost there?
No, actually, it costs more if we're gonna put a new street light up, LED. They will replace, the policy that is as they go out now, they will replace them with LEDs. To me, they look, it gives a better look. And for them, we pay per light. We don't pay for usage. Of course, the per light amount is calculated based on usage, and so, yeah.
I saw them at Bayview. I think when it was taking the back way, there was all those streetlights had LED on them, and I was just wondering. I saw this cost, and I was thinking, would that make an impact over time?
No, it won't go down, because the LED lights themselves and the fixtures themselves are more expensive. And that's the going in cost. They will save money on the long haul of LEDs. If you'll notice, the latest ones that we approved as a city was on Henderson Road. And so most of those are LED, and you'll see one of the older, two of the old lights mixed in. And
So I know we're changing them as they break down or something like that. Is that what we're doing?
yes,
Yeah,
as they go out, AEP, what happens is, just so y'all know the process, our police department does a good job. We have one of the things when I got here, nobody knew street lights or really what to do with them and who fixed them and anything. We went specifically to every street light, and there's a pole number. And so there's 500 and some odd poles. And so we've got a listing of all of those street lights, and once a month, the police department on their shift in the evening, they go and check them, burning, yes, no, or whatever else is issue with it. And they turn that in to us, and then we turn the ones that need to be replaced into AEP. And they do it. It's their lights, it's their poles, it's not ours. So, but that's the process.
Now,
A lot of work goes behind the scenes, and the good thing is we know about it. It should never be over a month. And we do get call-ins, but we do also look at them. Unlike most cities do not spend the time and the effort that we've done to make a listing of that.
now this make tied together, I guess, on the streets and that pole lights on light poles. I know years back, we put in the plant basins with the nice street light coming up. I know it's getting more difficult, and I know Carlos is not here, and I know knowing him, he would have probably brought some of that stuff up. Is it more difficult for you guys to maintain something like that now?
As far as the lanterns, we kind of incorporated with the areas, like if we're working in a certain area, we also will cover them. The issue may be that people will notice is like recently we had the winter storm that kind of killed everything. So then maybe that's some of the things that people will notice.
So would you recommend we try to redo that beautification or eliminate the planters and just go with a normal street light?
That would probably, one of the items I know that in the past was the gardener was brought up, and that's probably something that would be suggested better by somebody like a gardener that we were looking forward to beautify our area, because even though we try our best to make our facilities nice and pretty and everything, if we had somebody that, like we
Just concentrate on that.
concentrate on that and knew more about like plants and things that would last longer and that die with, the winter storms, but we try our best to keep up with them.
So after the.
We're looking for someone that specializes in plants. We have not found that person. We'll find them. To dovetail what he was saying is that way, you know, not everybody has that expertise and can maybe care for those better. From my viewpoint, and I know Carlos's, we would rather they not be there, but the planter is separate from the light pole. The light poles are there and they're nice and they look good. That was paid by CDC a few years ago to upgrade those. The planters, to me, they're more in the way, but that's for a different day. So.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask about the posts, because they're gonna be replaced after all the street is getting repaired. No, it's not worth doing anything now, right now.
On what?
On the lightings, yeah.
Yeah, they won't, those lights are not part of the, where they will be messed up, so they'll be okay. Just so you know, he didn't mention it because it's about the same as this year, but next to the last, a street project is, it's just $107,884. It's just money there for us if we get our street bids in that we'll get in the next couple of months, and we are short a little bit, we have some money to pull from. Or if we say, you know what, this block wasn't included in that street project, and because of all of the diversion of traffic around, we really need to get that block fixed, we have some funds to pull from to get that done.
No, I appreciate it. If anything, yes, you know, that's gonna be probably our next big tackle after this road gets done. So, any little bit will help there.
Yep. If no other questions, you can go into parks real quick. If you recall, one of the things that.
Sorry, Mark, I'll just one more with this part, and then maybe it can go together, but I'm gonna ask the same question that I asked PD on the trainings. Do you guys, if y'all have to go out of, you know, Los Fresnos area for a training, do you all take your own vehicles, or do you all take a city vehicle?
For the most part, we use our city vehicles, and recently we had newer vehicles that will get us there. So we try to stay away from using personal vehicles.
Thank you, sir.
On the parks, you can see the contract labor, it's about the fourth item, where it basically doubles because we moved that employee, I talked to you about last time, is they want to move it from water and wastewater because we have enough there to parks because of the addition of the trail and the nature park, and it'll give them one more employee there to take care of that. But we had talked about that, but it might stand out to you, and so I wanted to remind you of that. Go ahead, Roll.
Yes, and also here for the Parks Department, some of the items that we have needed adjustment was like tools and supplies. Now that we have more parks and also the bike trail, we will be using more equipment and also using more equipment. And on the next page, on page 7.
Right there, sir, just 1 second. So last year you all used $6,000, was that correct? This year you're asking for 7,000?
Yes, for the next year we're proposing 7,000. The last year's approved budget was 6,000.
Okay, I'm just asking because considering the tools and expenses, just like Roundup and fertilizer and everything else has gone up, I mean, I wouldn't mind if you all take another look at that, and maybe if y'all need 10,000, you know, a little bit extra so y'all can have, just to make sure y'all can have your tools and equipment and ready to go.
Yeah, we'll get together and see if there's adjustments needed for that.
Just because we now are increasing the size of the parks, we have everything else at this point. I would expect more of that breakdown to happen anyway, so.
Excuse me. If y'all wanted to do that, we could increase that to 10, it would be another 3, and we would take it from right above where the street project is, and it really wouldn't affect that one. It's 107,884 and move it to 104,884, and then, because the 3,000 move in there would be fine, and it wouldn't damage if you think that's necessary, because
I don't know, you guys on.
they can
I mean,
always
if you need
utilize
it,
it.
it's still gonna be there anyways if you need it, so. the
Just in a
money's-
different
yeah.
department, and they can't access it in that other department except if it's for streets. Policy is we can't move we can move within the department, but we can't move from streets to parks, so if y'all are okay, we can move that to 10. We're okay with that. It won't adversely affect the other.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend it, guys, just because now that we have this park, walk trails and everything that are going on, a lot of people are using that, and it's going into right by people's backyards as well. I just kind of sense we're gonna be, the new worker is gonna be, a big help, but definitely don't want any worry about machinery, while that's happening.
What about a fence along that new walkway? Because there's been residents that say that people cut through their yards to get to that walkway. Is there anything being done about that, or has that been something you've been hearing? And would that be considered part of an expense if we ever needed to do something like that? Or would that be the owner's expense?
I would think it needs to be an owner's expense. If you go down the full walkway, there's probably less than half a dozen that don't have fence. Most of them already have a fence, and so, if you start doing it for one, you're gonna have to do it for the other, or you put their fence on, you come back, mine's broken or mine's rotten, so come fix mine, and I think you open a can of worms that you can't ever put the worms back in.
Yeah, and I say that because I was approached by a lady that said that people have been cutting through her yard to get to that walkway, and so I don't know if that's something we've been hearing, or was that just a one-off?
I haven't, but I would recommend they call the police. I mean, it's trespassing, if they do that.
If anything, I know it's hard, we can't encourage in that aspect, right, encourage to spend money. But, and I don't know if we want to start incentivizing that either, because most of those people probably don't have animals anyways, I'm assuming, and so that wouldn't be too much of a concern if their yard is open to that trail. But it would be nice, but it is what it is.
We're gonna move 3,000 from
I would recommend it, I'm just
Street projects?
hoping
from
you
street
guys-
projects to tools and
Tools
supplies.
and supplies.
Is that
That's
pretty
what I
much in
am
agreement?
proposing.
Mr. Munoz?
If you are in agreement with that, that's fine. We don't care. We're okay with that if that's what you want.
Just want to make sure everybody's comfortable with it. Commissioner Munoz, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay with that, yeah.
All right, as long as you know it's good. Yeah, proceed.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Also, another item that we needed to adjust was fuel for vehicles. Same thing as prior departments. Fuel has gone up. Also, another item was mowing machine repairs. As we use our equipment more, we do have to maintain it more, and there's more of an expense for that. And that's all I have for now as far as parks.
How's the weed eaters and stuff like that? Are those all, do the guys have stuff that turns on pretty easy? Are they gonna have to crank it a couple of times to get it going, or how's that equipment?
We have a guy that we use that is he's more specialized for like weed eaters and tractors and stuff like that we use a lot, and so he keeps our equipment going, and that way it keeps our own employees from tinkering with stuff that may be.
Yeah, because I've heard from employees like, no, esas máquinas, they don't work, and we need new equipment stuff. I haven't been back there to witness it. I know Mark said that everything is good and running, so I'm just taking his word for that. So I'm assuming the equipment's all pretty good shape.
Yeah, I mean, once in a while we'll have weed eaters. Sometimes they has hassle with the gas nowadays. So But we do our best to keep our equipment tip-top shape for our employees.
Thank you.
And at some point, we just don't repair a weed eater that's you have to be careful on a $250 weed eater. You don't want to spend $180 fixing a $230 weed eater, you know what I'm saying?
Let's get a
So
new one.
they look at all that and at some point, we just replace them.
Sorry, I was looking at parks, electricity parks, from 4,500 roughly to 10,000. Electricity on bottom of page 6.
Yeah, that's a good catch. 4479 was in year 2020 and 2021. We didn't have any Little League that year. And so you can imagine burning those Little League lights every night for 3 months. That's the difference. Good catch. And now it's about 10,000 is what it's running, and that's what it was before. So.
Any future projects to add another park, or is that any money ever allocated to maybe add another park somewhere else other than the parks we're using now? I mean, we're getting a lot more kids, and would that be an expense that would eventually show up on these reports?
That would be something we'd have to do a capital project with, where we'd probably want to get some grant funds to
Yeah, that's
take
what I
the
was
Parks and
gonna ask.
Wildlife.
So let's say we will try to go after a grant. I know we have other trails and everything out that way, and we're gonna have a trail right now going to meet the Bronzeville Trail. That's a lot of extra space out there and a lot of extra land that we could possibly do because of the lowland area. We're very limited. But how would that work? Would we put something in here to hire somebody to work on grants? Do we have somebody on place for this already? That would just kind of concentrate on that more?
The city has a company called GrantWorks, and we keep them apprised of what our needs are, and they look for grants. The parks grants are always available, not always annually available at different times of the year. We have not applied for them recently because we were waiting for the hike and bike trail to finish, because we had a grant with Valley Baptist Legacy Foundation, and they wanted it to be complete before they talked to us about another one. And as well as Parks and Wildlife, we had that trail grant from them for $200,000, and we're just finished that grant. So now we can begin to look. Just a goal that I had was another pocket park into this east section here, because we did one over in the southwest section on 9th Street. We had to find some property, we had to buy property, and then we would have to develop it. That's how we did the Montes Castro Park. Of course, that was a little bit different because we got gifted the property. As far as the other park, as the development happens for there by 803, I think that area would need a park. I don't think we build parks like the two large ones we have. We do smaller parks for the neighborhood. To build and maintain those kind of parks, we are well over what the norm is as far as acreage in parks for our city.
On that end, Mark, if we do smaller parks, and I know zoning, I guess in this end is zoning, would we spread them out too much? Or would you think it's, by spreading the work out so much, would it be harder to kind of cover? That'd be their job, they'd have to do.
Yeah. The idea is to have a park where you live, not have to get in a car and go, because,
So on that end, have we seen any liability differences off of that? Do we know?
What do you mean?
Like, since it's a smaller park and further, and it's not kind of centralized, like that, we haven't had liability issues on that. And I'm just trying to see if we spread ourselves out with smaller parks. I just want to make sure we can cover that. And then you already answered that, yes,
Well,
we can.
You know, it's a matter of where you want to put your resources. And so that's a decision that would come ultimately to you, whether you wanted another big park or small. We think that it's better in, you know, a smaller park that serves that neighborhood. If I want to walk down to the park, I can walk a block or half a block or 2 blocks and get there. I don't have to get in the car and go. That's the idea.
And the trails will connect them anyway, so or somehow that's, you know, we can
To
get to
some
that
extent.
point, yeah.
I mean, right now, we're around, you can safely walk the east section with the sidewalk we put in on 1847, and the new sidewalk that'll go on 100, and then the trail that goes around it. So within probably anywhere 2 to 3 blocks, you can walk and hit a trail or a sidewalk. But
On the
once
topic,
again, that's
yeah.
y'all's in the future.
On the topic of little block parks, I know Mr. Keeler was talking to me in that there's a section there that a lot of people use for practicing on his land, in between Mr. Keeler's house and my, okay. And he mentioned to me that him and his son are gonna buy the lots, and then he's gonna open up and develop himself a practice field for those kids to come in and practice and use that area. He was gonna remove some trees and stuff so that it'd be less of a liability of a kid running into a tree or something chasing a ball. But that's in the works in that area.
Cool.
Just to finish up, I was able to meet the Grant Works, I think he was the person over at TL, the Texas Municipal League training that we had. So he did mention something, and right now that you just mentioned his name, it just came back to me in terms of that he really loves the work that he's doing here in Los Fresnos, and he said he already had some plans that he's waiting to work on. I don't know if we can get him here at some point. Maybe we can talk to him and.
Sure. Ready to move to library?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Ro.
Once again, Angie usually is here for this, but because of the change in the date, she's had already scheduled vacation. Library is easy. If you can look down the list, it's, the only change is about 3/4 of it down in that block of under library is maintenance of building. We need to upgrade the air conditioner there. In the new year, it's past its last leg. We're gonna add a sidewalk and a gate, something that, you know, you do things and you think they're good and they serve your purpose. There was a fence kind of put for the walking trail, and that we didn't want to cut off the library from the highway and put it in front, so we ran it around back. But then it kind of, the only way to get the library, you had to walk around to the back and come around, and you know, you don't think about those things. And Angie came and pointed it out, and we go, yeah, you know, right there on the west side of her, we'll put a gate and a sidewalk, so that's part of that to connect in. I think it's a fantastic idea, just so that you can connect straight from the playground area or the skate area, if you want to go to the park, go to the library. So that's there. Capital outlays, just some she does the computer equipment a little bit different than the rest of the city. So she has some things that she does outside because we get a match from the county library system. And I can't remember what it's called, but the school district gets it too, where the government pays for 90%, we pay 10, and that's where that 2,000 there under capital outlay goes. So those two items really changes besides the increase in wage for the 3 employees there. The rest of them, you can see they're the same from one line item to the next.
How many people do we employ in the library? I know you're not probably don't, do you know that?
Do what?
How many people do we employ there?
3.
Any maintenance? I know it's been there for a long, long time.
Yeah, we just, through the budget this year, we were able to paint and replace gutters, do some maintenance. We're looking at some signage that we can also probably fit in under that maintenance of building. Probably be able to get some help with our CDC on the sign grant too, even though it's a city. But what we want to do is put, if you take a look at the front of the library, the signage looks like it was put there in 1970, which it was, or before. We've got some renderings of something that says library that brings it to modern and maybe help modern. You can't do much for the structure of the building. It's kind of an old look of a building. So you do other things around it. Another thing that is in this budget that should get done in the next few weeks is flagpole. There was an old flagpole there. We have a flagpole at the community center that has never been used since probably it was put in. We use the flagpole at the PD to fly the flag. So they're going to relocate the existing pole from the community center and put it there in front. I think that'll be just a different look and feel. So yeah, we're doing some things like that because it's an old building.
Would there be any grants that we could go after in the not near future, but I guess the future? I know you said it's hard to upgrade. I can imagine doing old buildings, and I know infrastructure-wise, it's hard to get to those things. Do you foresee us having to build a library at some point?
No.
It's the space. I mean, now with internet and everything, most people have access to a lot of that stuff at home anyways. So
we offer that there. And she has computers set up where people come in and log on and use the internet. She also has a program that you take it's not a cell phone, but it's like it, they're called a hotspot, and you can, she issues them out, and kind of like a book, and you can keep it for a week, 10 days, and they stay out. So we do offer those services for those that kind of in the remote area that probably don't live in Los Fresnos, but they could, that don't have internet, but most of Los Fresnos, you can get internet service if you want it.
yeah, when that library services many people outside of our.
There are people, and we've always looked at our parks and our library and in the city as Los Fresnos people or Los Fresnos people. It includes Bayview, includes Arroyo City, includes Laurellis, includes Indian Lake, all of those folks.
Yeah, since we're on the topic of the library, I recently had an immigrant that came to me to try to rent books for his kids and for himself to learn English, and they would not give him access to it. He had his passport from Cuba, and then he had a bill with his address on it, and they said that wasn't enough. You needed an actual ID with your license on it. So he was a little upset because he said, hey, I'm an immigrant, I'm trying to learn, my kids go to school here, and they would not let me check books out. So I don't know if that policy could be tweaked to provide either or, an ID or a proof of proof of address and a passport. That way, I don't know what other immigrants are living here that try to go check books out and they're not able to. So just a comment.
I'd be glad to talk to you offline and get more data, the information. That doesn't sound like altogether right, but it could be. They're pretty.
I mean, they made an
open.
exception because I called down there and I told them that I would take responsibility for any books that were missing or fees. And they went ahead and gave him the books for him and his kid. His kid was only 4 or 5 years old or 6 or something like that. So I just want to make sure it doesn't happen to
I like to
anybody else.
know more about that and what the reasoning is, but
And it's only because of the library. We're talking about the library. And,
Yeah.
you know, they're doing great things and I love it. It's just a little concern that I wanted to bring up.
Also, got a question, Mark. How many people do we have working there in the library?
3.
3 people? No, the reason I'm asking is because I see that's 110,000 and we got 90,000 on salaries for the parks. That's the reason why I was asking. On salaries for the park is 90,000. And we got 110,000 here on the library, so
It's just the different employees and how they're done, and we do have 2 others that are contract labor that are the park, so.
And I know, I guess, I don't want to go backwards, but a lot of those are I won't say double dip, but they do multiple, right? So there are a little bit of parks and a little bit of streets.
Correct.
Correct. So what's allotted for parks really can also be seen on the streets and the budgets kind of match.
On to the next.
Okay, on the community center, Jackie handles that. I won't have her come up because as you see, it's the same as it was this year. So, just so y'all know and understand the flow, we went over, senior citizens last meeting, and that's done through a grant. And so everything that we can run through that grant, we run through it, which is electricity, which is maintenance, a lot of the maintenance, a lot of the, electricity liability insurance and all that kind of stuff. We can put it under the grant, even though we get to utilize the building on the weekends and the evenings. So, the rest of those are just some supplementary things that sometimes it doesn't get covered by the grant. We have a little bit of funds to be able to do that, so.
So on the community center, we have the employee there. Where do we cover the salary for that?
It comes out of that grant
From
and
the
the
grant?
senior citizens, which we reviewed last meeting.
Yeah, okay.
It's, she's paid out of there. The fuel to deliver the meals or, pick up the clients and take them to help with prescriptions, with doctor's visits, with all those things. The van's paid out of there as well.
I know, I'm aware of the community center, but it's mainly after hours, people rent it and stuff like that. During the day, I know I see a lot of they use it, is it like a staging ground for that? I know they meet there and they'll have activities there too. Is that what happens during the day?
Yes, they play, bingo, what is it called? Chalupa, they love to play that, but there's a lot of them haven't come back from COVID, and so most of what she does is deliver meals. Amigos de Valle still delivers the meals, and she takes them and takes them to people that are part of the program that help. They, before COVID, they went on not a lot, but would go on to excursions, go to the mall, things just to keep people active and do things. She does a lot of help with getting groceries, prescriptions, taking to doctors and things like that.
Whoever she is, tell her thank you because I've seen her out there.
Lupita. Next one, we'll go to emergency management, and hopefully we never need this part, but when we do, everybody wants it.
Evening again, gentlemen. Everything here stayed steady. I think the only thing that you will see an increase, if you look down where it says telephone and communications, we're going up 5,000, and this is due to the additional officers that the school district got. They're gonna be adding some radios to their department, and that's why we increased it. Just so y'all can know, this money also gets paid back, the school pays it back to the city, so we're not spending anything extra actually, but you'll see an increase of $5,000 there. Besides that, everything stayed the same, unless you all have any questions.
You brought up the school. I know I saw some of you all on, about a week ago there at school, and y'all did a meet and greet, or I don't think it was a training, just more of a meet and greet.
Yes, sir.
So communication between them, I know they have a dog on site and we don't have a dog on site. Do we share, do you all feel free to ask if needed?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and we've actually utilized them in the past whenever we need a canine out there being on a traffic stop or at a residence or whatever. We will call them out there, and we've actually even called them after hours at times, and they will come and assist. We have great relationship with the school, and we want to keep it that way. Yeah. Yep. Question?
I'm good. Anything else, guys? Thank you, sir.
The next area is just kind of some general things. We do keep track of payroll, each department, and then lady that does the payroll, but the actual checks and everything are done through a third party, and this is the fee for that. As you can see, it's very reasonable because they take care of all of a lot of the stuff that is very very critical to do timing and those things, and so we save a ton of money by doing it that way. The next one is just the records retention and fixed assets. Got a company that comes in and helps keep track of that. That way, we know that all of our assets are handled correctly. That's Pablo works with that as well. Record retention is Jackie, and she works with that. I don't know if y'all ever been upstairs. There's about 2,000 square feet of old records that we keep there. In air condition, it's not 70, but it's a temperature that they require to keep records. Before here, we had them scattered all over the place, trying to keep them preserved. So
I actually have something to add on that. I have a box full of a lot of older, I think it was quilting. I know there used to be a women's club here in Los Fresnos at some
Junior
point.
Service League,
Something like that.
we love it.
I have it.
We-
Some of those families are still here, right? And I know some of you all are still related to that. I would love to have that showed up. I believe 50s and yeah. I'll get with you, Miss Jackie. Yeah.
The next section is community health, and that's the program that we do. We get a grant for it. We get $60,000 a year, or Pablo does a good job of trying to get as much as we can. The expenditures, if you'll see, only shows 48, 53, 54, but we also get reimbursed for part of the finances salary that is in the administrative department. So like last year, we only had expenditures that shows here 48, but we got reimbursed 65,000 because it's actually on our record shows up there. But so we get at least 60, and they do a good job of turning those things in monthly. We get called the model city, which is pretty cool whenever they're talking about getting funding and turning our reports in. So that's her program, Christine, that she runs. and the supplies that she needs. Part of that you don't ever see is SNAP instructors that the University of Texas Health Science Center pays for. And then also part of that you don't see here that we pay out of that is also instructors that are in the parks department. They're really parks people, but they do the instruction on several of the classes, and we pay them separately apart from University of Texas, the SNAP instructors, and so they get paid out of there, as well as some of the lifeguards, depending on what program they're doing. Like if we're doing the swimming lap, we got an hour that they do laps, and another one they do the water aerobics, and so those instructors get paid out of that grant too. And that's all I have on that, and that includes general fund. If y'all want to take a quick break, or we can keep going, the utility fund won't take us very long, and that's the end.
Let's get it done.
One question. I know Chief took off. On the emergency management, there is a bus behind the fire EMS that is not being used, or I'm not sure how it's being used, but do we have a command and control or something that we need, or do you guys foresee something that we would need, or your building itself would function as that?
I would say usually the building itself. You're talking about the bus at the fire department? They have it as the mobile command post in case they ever use it. It could be used, and we have a great relationship with the fire chief. But normally for big events like hurricanes or something, we usually have our own emergency management center.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Can we keep going in utilities? Okay, cool. Page 9, and this is a separate fund for Luis. From the general fund, we have water and sewer fund, which we call the utility fund. And basically, the utility is water and sewer. So you'll see at the top, we got water revenues, and we're projecting flat. We feel like we're going to project out to $1,250,000 this year. And we're doing that for next year. The reason why is we don't know about conservation and what that's going to bring for us. Might not bring anything. Might still be the way it is, but could be different. So we said, let's be conservative and keep it the same. The next two items are water taps and utility expense fees. Those are paid by a developer. Part of the colonial law is that whenever you buy a lot, you have to be assured that you have water service, and you have to be assured that you have sewer service. So, of course, that's part of the lot fee when you buy the lot. So the developer puts it in, and then you pay for it as part of the lot cost. But what it prevents is, if you'll remember in the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of colonials built that they just had a land, and then they said, well, where do I get water from? There's no way for them to get water or sewer. Most of that was in the county area, not in cities, but it became a law that we have to abide by, and so those developers have to pay those fees up front. And so if you can see there, I budgeted $9,000 this year, I'm budgeting $9,000 next year, but last year we had 114, and this year we're at 69,850, and that's per lot. And so they pay for that water meter even though the lot's not there. So they give us the money, and it might be next year when they someone actually buys a lot and puts the service in. So we'll go put the meter at that time. So it covers cost up front. Of course, they put the line in and all of that, but we've got to account for it there. we never know what development's gonna be, so that's why you see a 9 there. It comes in revenue, if you'll recall. Well, that was another thing, that was part of fees, it's still development, but this comes in revenue, it'll go out and expense under water meters later in when we talk here in a minute, but that's what that's for. Processing fees, that's the credit cards we've been talking about, about 17,000. You might ask miscellaneous income, why is it different this year and projected? We didn't budget for it and there's no proposed. That was a TCEQ refund from that violation that was 38,000. We ended up getting it refund, and then we purchased extra parts so that if one of those trains failed, we didn't have to wait for parts to come in and potential violations. And then also we had those things called aerators, the portable aerators that we can just throw in the water and aerate the water, and so we won't get those. So that's what that is. Wanted to point that out to you.
So we went back to 0, to a lot from.
Correct. Sewer revenues, we get 3 sources. The city, and you can see that we're pretty well staying flat. We did project a little bit of increase just because we do get differences because of businesses versus homes. Then the revenue for Indian Lake and East Rio Hondo, that's for, we provide sewer services in Indian Lake, and East Rio Hondo is an area out towards Laurellis that we provide sewer services. So that's the revenue that comes from them. They actually bill it and then remit it to us. Sewer tap is another fee that developers pay. We just budget low because we never know what that figure is. If you can see, we've got 186,000 in this year from those fees because developers pay for those up front.
I have a question on that sewer tap. I know since we service East Rio Hondo, Laurellis area, I know the sewer runs on one side of the road, and they could tap it if they're on the other side of the road, they would have to contract bore, tap it on the other end, but it would be possible still?
Correct.
Right, so it's not like people need to wait for a sewer line to be on their side. Okay.
Correct.
And the fee for an individual family or one connection is 3 to 5? I'm not sure.
I'd have to look at we have a.
$400? Okay.
$437.50, but
Yeah.
that doesn't include the bore, that they
So-
pay for that. To get the line to their property, they would have to pay to get that.
So I'd be like, Ms. Jackie, I have a company already ready to go, I just need a permit to tap it. And then we go inspect, or I'm assuming, right?
We, of course, between Carlos and our engineer, would go and inspect it to be sure that line was put in properly according to our standards. And then we would tap into it, and then they run it to their house.
Thank you, sir.
But we have a complete fee schedule that's been approved by the council. We haven't upped that in quite a few years. That calls for what that amount is in the city, what it is in the county. It's higher in the county. The reason why is they're not our taxpayers is the reason for that. With the two added together, you can see the total revenues, 2.9 million for our water and sewer. The next section is expenses, and they're all, we'll go line by line, so we'll skip that next section. The bottom is salaries, and we've already talked about those and dealt with those in the meeting before, so that's all salaries, FICA, Medicare, benefits, Texas Texas workers' compensation, there it is. Retirement insurance and workers' compensation insurance. So those are all plugged in according to what the salaries are.
And what we approved last week.
Correct.
right?
So we go to page 10, and Raul, you want to take off, and I'll spot you if there's any issues that come up.
Good evening. Going on the expenses, services, miscellaneous and water, an item that stands out was credit card expense. We have more people using online services, which is good also. Another item that we focused on is the Southmost Regional Water Authority expense, which is determined by them, and it's that cost to us, and that's the adjustment made for that. Let me see.
Can I say something, a little bit of that, just so that y'all know? Gabby serves as the representative from the city council on that board. They develop a budget separate from this and approve a budget. And their budget for us this year, and it's based on percentage of ownership. And we're a 2.28% owner. So whatever the budget that they work up and approve, we get assigned 2.28% of that operations and maintenance. And so it went up looked like 31,000. So that was the biggest increase in that area. The next one is, below it is Southmost Regional Water Authority. That's the debt. There's a debt component that was built in when that facility was built. And so the 51,000 is our share to pay in that debt. The one above that's 132,000 is the ongoing maintenance and operations of that facility.
Okay, sorry, Mark. So the SRWA, OA, and M is not the Southmost Regional Water Authority?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Operations and maintenance.
okay.
The one at the bottom is the debt part of that piece. The excess water consumption is, if you'll recall, we had our water plant down for a while, and so we have to pay, when we take more than 2.28% of the production, we have to pay excess for that. We're estimated to be about 25,000. They're online right now, and so Raul had them drop their delivery. They can't turn it off because it causes problems in the lines with residuals and stuff, but they can lower it to a minimal level so that we can kind of catch up. We can only do that through September 30th because we start a new fiscal year. So we'll see how much we can catch up so that we pay a minimum. But if we weren't paying it there, we'd be paying it in more chemicals or more something in operation of the plant. So it all works out.
And continuing on, material supplies for water, we have an expense there for water connections that as the city grows, we also have more connections. So that was one item that needed adjustment. The same as with the other departments, fuel for vehicles, price of gas has gone up, so we did need to make an adjustment for that. Just below the town of Indian Lake water purchase, as mentioned before, we pay the portion for Indian Lake. We pay their share as we use it. So that expense has already been pre-calculated, kind of like of our end, as mentioned before.
Can I ask a question on that? I was at a restaurant, I overheard, can't help it. I was at Rancho Viejo, and I heard a comment that said all the water they have is in that resaca and that's it. I'm not saying we sell, have we ever sold water to another municipality? I know we trade, you had mentioned.
We've done emergency help with, we have emergency interconnect with East Rio Hondo and Almito Water Supply. But it's very seldom used either way. They've used it more than us. I don't think we've ever used it. That was in Rancho Viejo?
Rancho Viejo.
Yeah, they're not, Rancho Viejo is
We can talk afterward.
yeah, Rancho Viejo is a part owner in Southmost Regional as well. It's actually not Rancho Viejo, it's Valley Mud 2 is who they're called. And so they get a share. And that's not necessarily true. The Indian Lake purchase is because they're part owner in Southmost Regional, but they're only a 0.002% owner. But East Rio Hondo won't allow them to get their share of water, so it's just like our ones above, we pay the difference and get their share. Comes out to about 20,000 gallons a day, but hey, it's good thing for us to do.
Continuing on here on the water side, repairs and maintenance, one of the items that needed adjustment was water line maintenance. The same as the city grows, we maintain more lines. Let me see.
This year, the Fifth Street on water line maintenance.
Yes, there's they projected was 60,000 for the expenses for this year, and that included the water line improvements there on Fifth Street, which have been completed, and so that expense is included in this year, which also next year we're proposing 15,000 for other improvements as needed.
The next section is the 25% of IT, which Dale went over at the beginning, and that takes us to the bottom of capital outlay.
In capital outlay, one of the expenses that we have is water meters, which right now we're wishing we had more water meters. It seems like there's a backlog in meters. We have about 240 meters that are backlogged or the backwater.
How does that work out? Let's say we open up another 150 homes, right? Is that we have to submit a request for those meters and then just kind of wait whenever the company, or I'm not who's in charge of that?
For the most part, we have meters in stock for new development, and up to right now, we haven't had to turn away any customers, homes or customers. We usually keep some available. We usually try to focus on new homes and new customers, and sometimes we have meters that go bad, so we send those to be replaced, and for the most part, the company will replace them. So instead of going and replacing the meters, the meters actually have warranty, so we don't worry about that. But anyway, I was going off topic. Up to right now, we've never had to turn away a customer for a loss of a meter or
Would you recommend stockpiling a few more?
Yeah. Currently, we do have orders.
Yeah, we had this discussion today about they're behind, just like everything, and it seemed like meters are worse. They owe us 240 right now, and I sent them a list. Pablo, part of our, you asked, some ask about IT, how do you get done? It's part of our work order system, and the other part has to do with water and sewer. If there's a problem that goes into work order, so I asked Pablo, okay, how many meters are we out there right now? There's about 40 that are broken. It could be that they just, the transmitter to the water tower to us is not working, so we can go manually read them, and that's okay. When they're broke is when it's a problem. We'll go back to the old style meters and the old way of doing it.
No,
They've assured us that we'll get an answer by Monday, because I've asked for them to cover those that are outstanding. And I know they got backlogs, but surely they can find enough to where we can cover the ones that are, because then we have to send somebody to read that meter and they input it. Yeah, it's the way we used to do it, but we're not set up to do it that way anymore. So their responsibility, I told them, your responsibility is to us. We went with your system because that was the best system. so they need to produce. So we'll see how it goes Monday.
Thank you. It's awesome that we're kind of working on that same page. Now, the tech side of that, I know we've been discussing hiring another person full-time. I know, do we need a specific tech person for that plant and that equipment that maybe this new person can't facilitate you guys with? In terms of not having to hire, but I know you guys get your trainings, you get your certifications. Does that include all the new technology that's coming in here so that we don't have to worry about that?
Yes, our plan right now is, we have a lot of monitoring systems that are computer, but they're very simple to use, which I and Carlos will work on. If not, we'll call up, usually the company we use is Hawk. They're known worldwide, and they usually will help us out. And any issues, they'll help us out. And we have a contract with them to come and repair any systems that, that are more technical.
Yeah, because I would imagine that'd be more specific in the technicality.
Yes, and that's why, like right now, we have a contract with a company, Hawk, and they come and service any equipment. We just call them up and be like, hey, this thing broke, and they have all the parts. What's good about them is that they have all the parts, and their technicians are certified and know their stuff, versus me or Carlos.
It's part of warranty on some of those parts. Plus, isn't Salceda also doing his training for water side?
Yes.
He's doing sewer, but he's also working on this water side, right?
Yes.
Is it him or the other guy?
Jose Salceda, he'll be hopefully getting his water license. He's gone through the training also. He just needs to test out.
Thank you very much, guys.
And as far as water, let me see, we've done our best to live within our means. And if you notice on page 11, total water expenditures, we did our best to drop it down and keep costs as low as possible.
Next, we go into, on page 11, he'll go into the sewer part. We've been talking water, and what he's mentioned there is the water expenditures are 10,000 less than what was budgeted this year, so holding the line on those things. The first section there is salaries, and the way we do water and sewer, because they work all in conjunction with one another. I might be in water today, and I might be sewer tomorrow, I might be water this morning and sewer this afternoon, so all of those salaries are split 50-50. And so if you look at the piece here on salaries and benefits, they will mirror what you saw in the water part that you saw, which of course you've already approved. So he'll start there where materials and supplies.
And there earns sewer, material supplies, fuel for vehicles, as mentioned in other departments. Cost of fuel has gone up, which would also include diesel, and this diesel we use for various pumps and portable equipment. Going a little bit further, we have done our best to lower the cost of maintenance at this sewer plant and lift stations. And so as you'll see the reflection as the proposed budget for next year of 108,500, which we're trying to live within our means.
I know I won't discuss one salary, but how about the rest? I know we talked, did that 4% go across the board for them as
Yes.
well? Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Let me see.
The last part of that page is IT again, the other 25% that we talked about, and so it goes to page 12 where it says services and miscellaneous.
And here we have electricity, price of electricity. Prices have gone up, so we did have to make an adjustment for that. Just below it, a few spaces, we have credit card expense, same as water. We have more people using online services, which reflects that adjustment. Also, for engineering, we slightly increased it also so that we have additional funds when engineering is needed as projects come along. let me see. On the capital outlay, if you'll see that there's a cost there for 52,500, and that's the matching cash amount for the CDBG grant, and that's for replacing the lines and manholes here in town, which is scheduled to start hopefully in the next month or so.
Actually, I have a question on that. I noticed there on Brazil and other little places, manholes were building up or trying to level back either to street, or I noticed one where the manhole is now above the street and we gotta go do something with that, yeah. But that's kind of where that capital outlay goes to.
Yes, and like for example, on those part of the engineering, they needed to get elevation, so some of those manholes were like stuck, and the only way to get them removed was to either break them or remove them. So we did have to go back and fill them in, but they're not. Most of those will be replaced when the project is finished.
I mentioned that on this, that one on capital outlay, Mayor, that one would be the piece where the Fifth Street sewer line that we've talked about, that when it rains hard, the ones on this end have some issues. That'll be a replacement. There's 5 areas that y'all picked out, and that was one of them. And Grant Works is the one that is overseeing that grant. And then y'all hired Hanson outside of their city engineering piece to oversee that grant as well on the engineering side. But it's about 250 or 300,000 the grant, and then we put in the 52.5. And then the rest of it is depreciation and debt service. So that really concludes all of the expenses that we really control but outside of, debt payments that are scheduled, and they're scheduled years in advance. So Pablo just plugs those in, and so we got a balanced budget through water and sewer, with the exception of the depreciation. We try to use that funds to keep our system upgraded and in good shape and not go in arrears. A lot of cities you hear, they have all these horror stories about so many problems. We don't have those because we try to pour that money back in, just like the Fifth Street line that Mayor's familiar with, of a gentleman as part of a driveway. But the bigger problem is they're just continual leaks on that line. And so, at some point you just go, we're going to put the money in that and fix that. And then that concludes all of our budgets.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir. I really did appreciate this.
8:23, we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting. Thank you.